I'm Rachel from 7 and All, and this is going to be a really fun video today because we're going to be talking about games. Educational games, that is. This is a collab hosted by my friend Katie at Life in the Mundane. Like Katie, I'm also a second-generation homeschooler, and we tend to have the philosophy of learning happens all the time, not only during school hours or a certain number of set school days in a year, and learning also happens when we play games. Now, our family is not the biggest game schoolers necessarily in the world, and we do not have the most enviable collection of educational games by a long shot. We live overseas, and we do have Toys R Us where we live, but the usual just games you can see on the shelf at the store are basically 15 different versions of Monopoly. So most of our educational games we have kind of brought over slowly through the years in suitcases and stuff, or acquired through different places, specialty places, odds and ends. So I just want to show you how I use games. All of the games that I'm going to be talking to you about today are educational in the sense of they are educational to use with learning about words, learning how to get comfortable communicating with words, widening your vocabulary, spelling words, just playing with words. And as a writer, this is something that I'm really passionate about. I want the kids to just get comfortable with words, and games are a great way to do that. So some of these games are actually more thought of as party games than educational games, but they serve that purpose of getting you more comfortable playing around with words. So I'm going to show you what these are like, and I'm going to also tell you about a couple of DIY ways to do some of these games without actually necessarily buying the game itself. Now, the first game I'm going to mention is Codenames. And I did warn you, these are not necessarily what you would traditionally think of as educational games. A lot of these are just party games, like Codenames. Codenames is a really fun game where you set up a bunch of tiles of just simple, they're just kind of normal everyday words, nothing fancy about the words, but then you're on two teams, and your job is to get your team members to guess certain words by giving them one clue word. So you have to think very strategically to get your teammates to guess a word like dog, for example, without having them guess the word cat, because maybe that word is one of your enemies, the other side's words that they need their team to guess. So you have to have a lot of strategy in choosing your clue words. This says it's for ages 10 and up. We do play it with my 9-year-old sister. It's pretty challenging for her to think of the connections and the clues. So this is definitely an older kids game, but this is a lot of fun and really gets you thinking about the connections between words and some words that have multiple meanings and all of that. So Codenames, it's a great game to practice word skills without it feeling like school at all. Now the next game I want to show you, I think this was a gift. This is Words with Friends, which I have never actually played the app version of the game, but this is just a small I guess real life version of the game. I don't know how much it is like the app, but in real life it's basically like Scrabble, but a lot simpler, and it takes up less space because you don't need a game board. It's basically just kind of speed Scrabble. You're building words off of your teammates' words. You can't use proper nouns, that kind of thing. You can turn over a certain number of tiles at the same time. It's just two players with two different colors there. I love how small it is. It just gets you playing, looking at letters, coming up with as many different words as you can think of. So this is a great option, Words with Friends. I am going to be linking all of the game editions that I can find down below in the comments, or if I can't find the exact links, I'll put the names down there below for you so you can keep track of those. Not in the comments, in the description. Now, Quiddler is, of course, a classic. Many of you may already be very familiar with Quiddler. It's often a family favorite. And I should point out to you, even though I said board games, a lot of these don't actually have a game board, which is pretty ideal for our lifestyle. A card game like this takes up a lot less space. So games without boards do tend to appeal to me more, very portable games. Quiddler is for ages 8 and up. There is also a junior version. But this is a game you have a set of cards in your hand and you're trying to build out a set of words that build out a word that uses all the cards in your hand, and you're gradually getting more cards in your hand. My husband and I like to play this together just for the fun of it, but playing it with kids is a great vocabulary builder. You can talk about the meanings of the words that you build. Sometimes they try to build words and then you have to tell them that's not a word, and then you get in an argument and have to get out the dictionary. So it's a lot of fun, Quiddler. Boggle is another classic. This might look a little bit different from the Boggle you're more used to. We have a travel version of it, which you just twist to shake it up and then twist it back for the timer to go off. I don't have it all the way twisted here because I don't want it to start beeping while I'm filming. But this one takes a little bit of shaking around to get it to work just right, but we've had this one for about 10 years, and we've played it a lot, get a lot of use out of it. It also takes up less space than the traditional box version of Boggle. And it's another great spelling game that can also end in arguments if you like to argue about whether words are real or not. And one of our policies is, can you use it in a sentence? Is a great question to ask when you have people trying to claim that this is a word. Because well, how do you use it then? Get them to think about the meaning of that word. Okay, it's blinking green, so we have plenty of time. I see feet. I see beat. 8. Set. Bet. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff. Maybe I need to play Boggle. Now this is something a little bit different. Etymon is a game basically about the etymology or origin of different words. And this was a gift to me because people know I love words. They know I love the history behind words and basically everything about words. I can't 100% wholeheartedly recommend this game. It is, I don't see an age on this one, but for playing it with like preteens or young teens, there were a few cards that I just took out of the box and threw away because I didn't feel that the maybe etymologies were really something I wanted to cover with young teens and teens. So I did go through the cards myself and toss a couple of them. But I'm going to show you kind of what this works inside so you can see what it looks like and see kind of an idea of how you could maybe even DIY this. Think about the etymologies of words and kind of turn it into a game. This is an example of a card from Etymon. Scapegoat is the word, and the definition gives you the definition is a person blamed for a problem. You have 4 choices named after magician Henrik Scapegoat, who escaped being chained, weighted down and thrown into the ocean. Or from the ancient Jewish custom whereby 2 goats are brought before an altar and one is sacrificed, the surviving goat is allowed to escape. From the proverb of 2 goats that approach a rattlesnake and the snake bites one goat who is mean to him because he is a snake and can't punch him. In World War I, the Allies sent coded battle plans to the front lines tied to goats since the animals were durable and able to eat or inhale anything including mustard gas. So, you have some somewhat ridiculous options, and this one is pretty easy to see the true option here. But you can just see kind of what it looks like, and then they have an answer key with the answer keys, or with the answers for each card as well. And like I said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this game specifically for homeschool at all, because definitely some of the cards are not what I would call family friendly. But the idea is solid that you could kind of make a game out of it. Have the idea of investigating the etymology of some idioms and words and terms with your kids. Have curiosity about where words came from. And it could even be something that you assign to different family members. Okay, everybody choose a word, choose an expression, and then kind of make their own card like this and test the rest of the family on it. I think that'd be pretty fun. This is another game, 60 Second Slam. that I think would be very easy to DIY. The general idea of it is a race the clock, alphabet, and category game. So you're given a category and you're supposed to come up with as many items within that category as you can within 60 seconds, with one for each letter of the alphabet. So you have a category like food, or you have a category like animals, something like that. And then you're trying to think of one for each letter of the alphabet, 26 letters in a short period of time. You definitely don't need to buy a game to do this. You can just kind of make that up. And it's a really good challenge for kids to think of words in terms of categories. Similar types of items, think through the alphabet, think of different words that fit a category. I like that. It's a lot of fun. It can get really competitive if you have two teams pitted against one another. The next game I want to show you is Length Times Wit, which is here the word game preferred by ladies and gentlemen of rare distinction. Now, this says it's for ages 13 and up, but I really don't feel it's any harder than Quiddler. If you played that, it is kind of a combination of the Words with Friends or Scrabble style of building words out of tiles, but then it adds in a bit of a gambling factor because you also have dice as part of your roll, so you're rolling a certain number of dice on each turn, and you kind of have to decide whether you stay where you're at with this word that's going to get you this many points, or keep going for a harder word. So these kind of games incorporate a lot of thinking about letters. Ooh, a letter X or a letter J gets me a lot higher points, but there's much fewer words that incorporate these letters. Or I have these vowels together, but these two vowels are not actually often seen together in the same word, so I don't have really good odds of being able to make a word with the tiles that I have right now. So there is a lot of thinking about that, and that's something that maybe more comes in a lot with more high school, when you can talk about what letters go together in English words. There are a lot of patterns. There are letters that we always see together, and there are letters that are almost never seen in the same word, especially with vowel blends and such. So these are great. I mean, they're just fun kind of party games. They're games that adults will play just for fun, but they can also spark conversations about the way words work. Now this one, Balderdash, this was seriously one of my childhood favorite games. When we would go on family vacations with all my uncles and aunts and grandparents, this was the game I always wanted to play. If you haven't played Balderdash, it involves somebody being given a card with an obscure word on it and the true definition. But your job as a player is to just listen to the word, and then you invent a definition for that word. And then all the different players' definitions are read aloud, and you need to vote for the definition that you think is the true definition. And this definitely involves a lot of thinking skills. Being able to write a definition for a word that sounds believable takes a lot of thinking. You can kind of play it off of what does the word sound like, does it involve any like Latin or Greek roots that you know, prefixes, suffixes. Does it sound like it's a verb or an adjective, or what kind of thing does it sound like? That's a big part of it. And also being able to guess which definition sounds realistic. That also takes a lot of that kind of reasoning and getting just more comfortable with words as you go. This is a tricky, pretty challenging game. This says ages 12 and up. I definitely played it younger than that. Probably I wasn't very good at it at a young age. But it is a lot of fun, and I would definitely do this with your preteens and teens to just kind of get comfortable having fun with words, playing with words. Words are not the enemy. Just so you can take a look at Balderdash, we actually have the version that has 5 different categories. The most traditional old Balderdash just had the weird words, but here they also have people, initials, movies, and laws. So the front of the card is what you see first, and then there will be the like definition or what that person was famous for or what the initials stand for on the back. And then we always like to save some of our little slips from the last time we played in here, just because it always brings up humor. So apparently this was probably for a movie one. We have a plausible movie plot here, digging up business. A Harvard law student flunks out and starts a PI business in Las Vegas. So this is attempting to write a plausible movie plot. This says it's real, so I'm guessing this was the real plot for digging up business. A woman tries to save her family's funeral home business from getting buried. I see what you did there. And then, of course, there is Taboo, which this particular game box may be just about as old as I am. I grabbed it from my parents' house. It has made it across the ocean with us, which shows how treasured it is. There are much newer editions of this. But this is the game. If you haven't played it before, you get a card with one word at the top, and you're trying to get your team to guess that word, and you have to describe it verbally. So this isn't charades where you're acting out, or Pictionary where you're drawing. You are describing a word verbally. But then there's about several words on the card that you can't say. And usually those words are the most convenient words to use if you're trying to get someone to guess this word. So that makes it pretty tricky. So that's where the idea of taboo comes from. And you have someone from the opposite team watching over your shoulder with a buzzer, ready to buzz in your ear if you say one of the words that you're not allowed to say. So this is a really challenging. It gets kids, actually knowing how to define a word is pretty difficult. That's a difficult skill. Kids know what words mean, but they don't necessarily really know how to describe what a word means. This is an extra challenging way to describe what words mean. With some of the kind of most basic words taken away from you, can you still communicate what a word is and what it means? I think this is a great skill for building comfort with vocabulary, building vocabulary, and using words. And of course, I could not do an educational word games video without mentioning the classic Scrabble. This is, of course, the original classic crossword puzzle game. Very fun, very competitive, also tends to involve needing to look up words in dictionaries. This one can be a lot of fun, builds spelling ability, and when I play this with kids, I tend to play it kind of open book in a sense of everybody kind of helping each other out, getting a feel for what kind of words can you make with what letters, how do words connect together, what letters are likely to be able to fit together. So especially if you want to play these kind of games with younger kids who aren't quite there yet, I suggest a really a team approach to the game, because it's not yet about fierce competition. It's more about just getting used to using words, seeing how words work, seeing how letters fit together to make words. So those are my top picks, my most realistic used games for just getting comfortable with words, having a lot of fun, building pre-writing, or even though kids are already writing, just building on writing skills by being able to understand how you can truly play with words. Because that's a lot of what writing is. It's just kind of play, putting some words on the page, moving them around, seeing how you can communicate a message in your own unique and memorable way. I hope that you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Please do give this a thumbs up if you liked the video, and you can subscribe to our channel, 7 and All, for more from our creative and adventurous homeschool family. Bye!